Hello, welcome to today's question of the week. I'm Beth Harrington. Today's video is accompanying a blog post, which is a case study about mergers and acquisitions. If your company is perhaps getting involved in a merger or an acquisition, this little video and the blog that relates to it is intended to be a little workbook for you. It's not intended to be legal or tax advice, but just some talking points and some considerations for the HR and the CFO of the company before you take that step. The merger and acquisition is almost never because of benefits related issues, but the benefits plans can be an important factor of the eventual transaction. So I wanted to give you a few things to think about before the transaction takes place. The first case we have is where Shark acquires Minnow, or Shark merges with Minnow. What happens to the retirement plans? Well, the first option is you can continue to maintain two plans side by side. The Shark employees continue to contribute to the Shark plan. The Minnow employees continue to contribute to the Minnow plan. This works when the Minnow is considered a separate division or a separate cost center of Shark. In some cases, it's just easier to go ahead and keep both plans. It's least impactful to the participants and the employees. A couple of considerations: if you're maintaining two plans, you will have two sets of administration costs, two 5500s to file, and perhaps two audits if both plans have over 100 employees. The other consideration is by the end of the second year after the transaction, because all of the employees are under the umbrella of the Shark organization, the two plans will have to be tested together. So benefits are going to have to be comparable, or at least the benefits will have to be within the testing parameters of both plans being operated side by side. So option one, maintain both plans. Option two is to merge one plan into the other. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that the Minnow plan gets merged into the Shark plan, but that might typically be what happens. So in that case, what happens is all of the Minnow employees then have their money transferred out of the Minnow plan into the Shark plan. The Minnow plan prepares a final filing with 0 assets, and the Shark plan then shows the transfer in of the assets from the Minnow plan. The disadvantages to Shark in this transaction would be that they are now not just assuming the liabilities of the Minnow plan, but they're also assuming the assets and the liabilities. That may not be what the plan had intended or the fiduciaries had intended. So make sure that you understand what has been happening with the Minnow plan. You might want to have a preliminary review before you accept those assets in on a merger. So a merger is pretty simple. There's an asset transfer, but none of the employees have to be distributed. Their benefits, everything pretty much happens the same after the merger as it was before the merger. The third option is to terminate one of the plans. In this case, if Shark acquired Minnow, very often with our clients who are in the business of mergers and acquisitions, they require that the company that they are acquiring terminate their plan on or before the transaction date. So in this case, Shark would never become a plan sponsor of the Minnow plan. The Minnow shareholders would be responsible for terminating that plan at some point after it terminates as of the transaction date. Distributions are processed sometime after the transaction date. A final filing is done, perhaps an IRS submission requesting permission for the termination is processed. So this termination process of the Minnow plan can take several months after the final deposit is actually made. But in many cases, the acquiring company doesn't want to acquire the liabilities of the other plan, so it's just cleaner for them to say, you terminate your plan, your employees can come on board with our plan. They may have the opportunity to roll the money over from the Minnow plan to the Shark plan, but those are all decisions to be made by the plan administrators at Shark. Speaking of eligibility, that is one consideration under either of these three options upon merger or acquisition. If Minnow does become part of Shark, Perhaps Shark would want to amend their plan's eligibility provisions to allow the Minnow employees to come into the plan immediately or after a shorter waiting period than otherwise a new employee might have to wait. So again, that's a plan design consideration for Shark to consider, and for the Minnow HR people and the Shark HR people to have a conversation. The mergers and acquisitions business seems to be firing up again. So if this video is helpful, we would love to hear from you. You're welcome to comment on our blog post or contact us by pressing one of the buttons next to the video here attached. Thank you so much for joining me. Good luck with your mergers and acquisitions. Come back next week for another question of the week.